Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, so I am back for just today. I'm probably going to have to take probably not going to be able to do a podcast for a while after this, so thought I'd squeeze one in. Alright, so obviously yesterday this weekend, there were 4 wildcard games, and I pretty much have something to say about all of them. But I'm going to start with the Packers-Cowboys game. Obviously, the Packers dominated pretty much the whole way. They scored on 6 of their 7 drives. Jordan Love looked great. The Packers, great game plan. But I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm going to start talking about the Cowboys' meltdown, because this was, in my opinion, the strongest Cowboys team there's been since I started watching football, at least. Because pretty much since I started watching football, I always just view them as a team that wins 11, 12 games in the regular season just to lose in the playoffs. They have 4 playoff wins in 27 years, obviously. I'm sure everyone's seen that. But, I mean, it's amazing to me. Like, I actually thought, admittedly, that the Cowboys would at least win a playoff game this year. At least one. I mean, but especially in this matchup, I mean, I'm a Packers fan, but the Cowboys, they got a great O-line. The Packers defense has its moments, but it's not great. Now you had Prescott, who is, a more experienced quarterback than Jordan Love is. You have a defense that looked great. You have a wide receiver that dominated the Packers last time they played. And they all just melted down. I mean, the stats don't do the beatdown justice. Because, I mean, if you look at the stats, it looks like they had great games, but Prescott and Lamb, they underperformed. It's clear. Lamb had 9 catches on 17 targets. That's far from their best performance. But now you gotta think, because Dak Prescott's been in the league since 2016. This was his 7th year in the league. He has not won a major playoff game. He made it to the divisional rounds against the Packers his rookie year. Went on to lose by a last-second field goal. That's the best year he's had, his rookie year. I mean, you have to start thinking, his cap hit next year is $59 million. Dak is good. I mean, he might sneak into my top 10 quarterbacks. Maybe. Top 10, top 12, in that range. He's a good quarterback. But he's not worth a $59 million cap hit. Alright, he just got cooked by the Packers defense, who, while they're good, they're not really anything special. 9th in passing defense, 28th in rushing defense. But, they're like mainly middle of the ground, the Packers defense. They're not... Outside of... I can name 3 Packers defensive players that are highly effective. I would say Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, and Darnell Savage are all highly effective. Outside of them, there's no one great. Devondre Campbell is pretty good, but I don't think there's any excuses for the Cowboys in this situation. They had the better team. They had the better roster. They had the more experienced quarterback, the more experienced coach. You had a Super Bowl champion coach against Matt LaFleur, who's a good coach, but he's played 5 playoff games. He's coached in 5 playoff games in his career. You know, and even though this is a great thing for Green Bay, I'll get to that in a second, but right now I have to talk about how bad it looks for the Cowboys. All right, the Cowboys were once in like from the 70s to 90s, they had two dynasties in the matter of 3 decades. The 70s Cowboys, 90s Cowboys were both dynasties. Since then, there hasn't been much. 4 playoff wins in 30 years. You know, and I think we all saw who the Cowboys were when they lost to Miami. Who, like, when you're the only playoff team that the Miami Dolphins beat, it's a bad look. The Dolphins didn't beat a single other playoff team other than the Cowboys. And it's not a coincidence that the Cowboys and Dolphins were 2 of the 4 teams that lost this weekend. And as a matter of fact, the Cowboys were in Dallas. That's another advantage. They were at home. You were in Dallas with the better, more experienced quarterback, more experienced coach, just a more experienced team in general. I like the Packers receiving core, but I'd take CeeDee Lamb over any of them. You know? But, yeah, I think we all, like I said before, this is the best Cowboys team I've seen in a while. Like, I've never believed in a Cowboys team more than I did in this one, but I still saw similar things this regular season that I've seen in the past ones. They're beating up on the bad teams, but when you look at it, they lost to Miami. They got blown out by the Bills, blown out by the Niners. And they barely beat the Lions. You can argue they only beat them because of the officiating problem. As much as I hate to throw that around, they beat the Lions on a technicality. That's a fact. All right, now that I'm done trashing the Cowboys for 7 minutes, holy crap. I'm going to talk about the positive side, the Packers. Jordan Love has had quite the improvement because I've been as optimistic as I can be with Jordan Love, but even in October, I think even Matt LaFleur was having doubts about Jordan Love. Back in October, like prior to Thanksgiving, when he had that game against the Lions, every game before that was tough to watch. Except for the Bears game week 1. You know, he had a few solid... He showed a few sparks. Like, when you look at his summer, Bears game was good. The Falcons game was a little rough. Kind of blew it at the end. But his game wasn't that bad. 3 touchdowns, no picks, 113 passer rating. Not terrible. He only threw 25 passes, though, so it kind of devalues his stat line. Against the Saints, 66 passer rating is bad, but the positive of that game was he did lead a game-winning drive, so we can give him some credit there. Then week 4 against the Lions, horrible game, 2 picks. But bad game, they lost 34-20. The Raiders was the real crap show. 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, 32 quarterback rating. Like the Raiders and Broncos, that was the toughest ones to watch. That late game interception was just not a good decision. Not a good throw by Jordan Love there. But week 8 against the Vikings, he had another bad game. 72 quarterback rating. Week 9 is kind of where he starts to pick it up, but I didn't really start to believe he was going somewhere until that Thanksgiving game. Like against the Rams, 1 touchdown, 115 passer rating. Pretty good. Against the Steelers, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Then the Chargers game. Another game-winning drive for him. And then from there on, Lions, the Thanksgiving Day game against the Lions and onward was solid. He's really come on strong, and I think a lot of credit should be given to Matt LaFleur for this. I think he's developed him very well, and I think he's shown how good he is as an offensive coach. I mean, in all honesty, he was part of the reason that Matt Ryan won an MVP that year. I'm pretty sure he was the quarterback's coach, while Kyle Shanahan was the OC. But yeah, he was a part of Matt Ryan becoming an MVP. And Matt Ryan's a good quarterback and all, but he was never... That was the only year I can remember looking at him and saying, that's an MVP quarterback. You know? And, he was the Rams coach, or no, the offensive coordinator of the Rams when Jared Goff had a solid rookie year in 2017. And then 2018, he had almost an MVP year if Patrick Mahomes didn't exist. Also quarterback coach of Washington when RG3 was a Rookie of the Year candidate. LaFleur has a history of being good with quarterbacks, and that's why we got him here for Aaron Rodgers, but turns out he was more useful to Jordan Love, the way I see it. And honestly, when you look at the stats of Rodgers' first year and Jordan Love's first year, Jordan Love has the edge as far as first-year seasons go. Because Rodgers, I believe, had 28 touchdowns to Jordan Love's 32. Jordan Love Jordan Love even had less picks than Aaron Rodgers, despite his poor start. But then again, you do have to. There is the difference that he had a 17-game season. Rodgers had 16. But yeah, Jordan Love's been really solid. And I don't think he's going to be Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's going to be as good as he was or do what he did. But, Aaron Rodgers wasn't really Brett Favre either. He was completely different. They both had the same success. Both got a Super Bowl. But Rodgers did it in a much different way. He was a lot more cautious with the ball. He didn't just throw it to whoever the hell he thought was open. But, yeah, great showing by Jordan Love yesterday. So the Lions got the Rams by 1 point yesterday for their first playoff win in 32 years, which now means the Dolphins have the longest drought, the longest playoff win drought. Because I think the last time they won a playoff game was, I think it was 2000. That was the year. The last time the Dolphins won a playoff game. But, yeah, the Lions, I like the Lions. I actually don't see a reason that they can't make the NFC Championship this year. And not just because of the way the Eagles have been playing, or because the fact that the Bucks, in my opinion, aren't a legitimate playoff team. But I mean, think about it. Great roster, great offensive coordinator, great O-line. They have a solid team. I don't know if they compete with the Niners at all, but I like their chances to make the NFC Championship. The problem I have with them is yesterday they dominated the first half. They had a great first half. It was in the second half that they started to kind of go down a hill a bit. But, I don't think, like I said, I don't think they're frauds. I don't think last night showed that they were not legit. I think as great as their roster is, I think Matt Stafford is better than Jared Goff, and Sean McVay is a better coach than Dan Campbell. So, it's hard to... actually, typically speaking, when a team has a better coach and better quarterback than the team they're playing against, they typically win, unless the roster talent outweighs that. So I think the fact that Stafford and McVay are better than Campbell and Goff that's what kept them in the game, but it ultimately didn't help them win. So I don't think the Lions are frauds. I think Miami and Dallas were exposed for being frauds last night. But I think the Lions are solid. I think their front office is honestly the best it's ever been and one of the best in the league. I'm not doubting that they do have some holes. They have some imperfections, but they're well-rounded. They're well-ran. They are well-ran. Can't speak right now. And I think they earned that win. But as a side note, Matt Stafford, I thought, played really well with what he had to go through. And I hope he comes back next year because him and Puka Nacua are quite fun to watch. All right, so after yesterday's disaster for the Cowboys, Mike McCarthy's future is a question mark. And when upsets like these happen in the playoffs, a lot of people are quick to start looking for people to blame. It happened every time the Packers lost an NFC Championship. It happened. I did it myself. I would look for someone to blame. I didn't never know who really. Typically, I would usually blame everyone but Rodgers, except for there were a few exceptions. Like the Bucs loss, I think that's Rodgers' fault because defense got 3 picks. You got to capitalize on that. You can't go 3 and out all 3 times, which he did. So I would blame Rodgers for that one. But I think playing the blame game is highly ineffective because changing one thing is not going to change your entire team. Like, firing McCarthy, what's that realistically going to do for the Cowboys? Like, look what happened when you fired Jason Garrett. Did anything really change? No, you're still going 12-win regular season to just losing the playoffs. You're doing the same thing with McCarthy that you did with Garrett. And I think a big problem is I think they could be a much better team if Dak Prescott didn't take up all the cap. And Dak Prescott really seems like a regular season quarterback. Because, he had a great regular season this year. He didn't throw 10 picks, which is honestly a great thing, not just for him, but for most quarterbacks. And most of the case when quarterbacks throw less than 10 picks is a good sign. But, yeah, led the league in touchdowns. But look at his games against the Bills and Niners when he had to actually play against playoff caliber teams. Look what happened. He played poorly. And to his credit, he played decently against the Lions and Miami. But I think Prescott deserves a lot of blame for what happened yesterday. But also, McCarthy, that game plan was rough, man. I didn't know. I just looked at part of the game, and I had no idea what he was doing. Throwing 60 passes is just I don't think there's any excuse for making your quarterback throw 60 passes. And I mean, I get it, you're down big, but like, you gotta make adjustments. You can't just keep throwing the ball. I mean, at some point you gotta realize it didn't work. But I think Jerry Jones, as the owner, has to realize they're a bad playoff team and only a good regular season team, and he has to... It's up to him to decide what is the best way to fix that. Because they're in the same spot they were 10 years ago. So clearly a change has to be made. Alright, now we're going to flip back to a positive note. God, I'm already 20 minutes into this thing. Alright, so CJ Stroud had a great playoff debut against the Browns, 45-14. I actually thought that game was going to be close. I thought the Texans would win, but no way did I think it was going to be 45-14. But yeah, CJ Stroud, he looked great. Damn near had a perfect passer rating. 3 touchdowns. But yeah. I mean, unfortunately for him, for CJ Stroud, he's probably going to have to play the Ravens unless the Steelers pull off an upset tonight, in which case he would still have to play the Chiefs. So, any way you slice it, he's going to have a tough game next round. He's not going to have the Browns. But, yeah, I mean, CJ Stroud, I think he has a bright future ahead of him. All right, let's shift to this. So, Jim Harbaugh is looking for an NFL job after his national championship win. He's meeting with the Chargers. I think today, I believe, actually, he's meeting with the Chargers. I mean, I think if I'm the Chargers, I'm definitely taking Harbaugh over Belichick because I think those are the two main coaches to look at for potentially filling coaching vacancy. I think if I'm the Chargers, I'm looking at Harbaugh and not Belichick right now. Because first of all, Belichick's 72, 71 years old, I believe? I don't know, he's in his 70s. I mean, he's not going to last much longer in the league. And also, I just don't think Belichick's style of coaching is working in today's league. It had its time. I mean, obviously he's got 6 rings. So it's hard to discredit Belichick, but I think his defensive coaching is just... If I'm the Chargers, I'm looking at Jim Harbaugh like all the way. Like I'm pursuing Jim Harbaugh. I'm doing everything I can to get him. I think Belichick... I'll get to Belichick later, actually. I just think Jim Harbaugh, I think he could fit with the Chargers. I mean... And also the Chargers are more of an offense... They're like all offense, pretty much. And I can see why they hired Brandon Staley. As a defensive coach because they were looking for defense, but I think they see now that a defensive coach is not the way, and they should shift to an offensive coach like Jim Harbaugh. All right, so the Dolphins, moving on to them. So they got destroyed, pretty much. They scored 1 touchdown all game, and I get it. It's negative 27 degrees. It's tough, but... I mean, the Chiefs had 25 first downs that game. Their offense just dominated. And yeah, Miami looked good at home against the weaker teams. But I think they showed their true colors. They showed who they are. They're a talented team. Very talented, but they're inexperienced. They don't... I don't want to say they're one-dimensional, but it's like I think they have a good offense, good defense. It's just they seem to only play well at home. I think Mike McDaniel's a great coach, but in his career, he's 7-12 on the road. The Dolphins, they seem to, when they go to a place that isn't 80 degrees every day, there's a significant decline in their performance. And it's not like negative 27 degrees was nothing to Kansas City. Negative 27 degrees is a lot for anyone, but Kansas City was just better prepared. All right, so it looks like the Cowboys are looking to pursue Belichick. I think if any of these teams that recently fired a coach is looking for Belichick, I would go with Atlanta, personally. I mean, weak division and, they're not in cap hell. They're a young team, just rebuilding. The Cowboys are in cap hell, and also, I don't think Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick, I don't think their egos are going to mix very well. I know they both have big egos, and there's no way that's going to work. Also, I don't think your owner and coach being over 70 is a good sign. So, they could pursue this if they want, but I don't think Belichick is the answer for the Cowboys. And if I'm being honest, I don't know what the hell the answer is for the Cowboys because they've been stuck in the same spot for 15 years. All right. So, I'm going to cover the Eagles now. They've just, I don't know what happened to them the last 6 games, but they're 1-5, for one thing. That's one problem. I don't know what's going on with them. I thought this year they'd have a slight decline because they lost both their coordinators from last year, but they weren't showing any signs, so I thought everything was good. But the last few weeks, it's been rough. The last few weeks for them. I'm thinking they can win tonight, but it's a tough call, honestly. I just have no idea what the problem is right now. I really don't. They lost to the Giants 27-10. They lost to the Cardinals. I don't know. It's hard. I really thought they were gonna make this all work out, but it's not looking good. The Chiefs also proved me wrong yesterday. Their offense turned back the clock. They really did. Because honestly, this season, this year, their offense has been much worse than previous years. And that's not to say it's bad. Their offense has been good. But honestly, 26 points in negative 27-degree weather, 25 first downs, that's the Chiefs I remember. All right. And it's we're gonna shift back to the Packers and Cowboys just because I just thought of something. I remember in the 2016 NFC Championship, the Falcons-Packers. I remember just watching the first 2 drives. I kind of knew. Obviously, I didn't want to accept it as a Packers fan, but I kind of knew just the way the Falcons' offense was moving down the field on both the first 2 drives. Part of me kind of knew that they were going to dominate that game. It's a similar thing to yesterday with the Packers, Cowboys. Sometimes you can tell what's going to happen in a game based on the first 2 drives. Like, the Packers were just moving down the field while the Cowboys were struggling. It was kind of clear, I'd say after the 3rd touchdown for the Packers, after it was 20-0, it was kind of clear the game was going to be a blowout. I mean, obviously the Cowboys got the stat pad at the end of the game, but in my mind, the score was 48-16. That's how I'm going to remember it, because that's what... I mean, I don't see... I can't... I'm never going to remember that game as it was 48-32. Because that actually makes the game seem closer than it was. You know, they had a field goal and 2 last-second touchdowns. That meant nothing. And like I said, it's interesting. It's really a great thing for the Packers and as much as it is a horrible thing for the Cowboys. You know, like, the fact that players were so wide open, you can put that on great game plan by Matt LaFleur, but also horrible game plan by Dan Quinn. You know? As a defensive coordinator, you got to adjust. You can't just keep letting that happen. But the thing is, Dan Quinn did adjust. At halftime, it was clear he made adjustments in the defense. People just kept getting open. Matt LaFleur's a great offensive coach. But yeah, so the Packers just dominated Dallas in every category yesterday. I mean, it was impressive. What I have noticed is the Rams and Packers, I feel like, made the biggest improvements in offense this year. Like, you look from week 8 and on, the Rams and Packers, I think, made the biggest improvements. And what they have similarities. Like, what do they have in common? Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, both great offensive young coaches. They both let their offenses are in constant motion. You know, constant movement. There's never a moment where, you know, they never like play too tight. They let their guys run around, give each other space. You know, Dallas, I feel like Dallas plays really tight, if that makes sense. But, yeah, like I said, I have no idea. I don't know what Dallas can change to get themselves out of this constant cycle they're in. All right. So, you know, I'm going to shift to talking about Tua now, because I really don't know what to make of him. I was very optimistic about him coming into the league, because I think a lot of people were kind of ragging on him for no real reason. I mean, he was not... Like, people were getting on him after his first 9 games. I thought that was unfair. You know, so I gave him a chance, and I think he's a lot better than people were describing him as. Everyone was saying he's too small, can't throw. It's clear that he can throw. He's an accurate quarterback. It's just... It seems like he has to be in certain conditions. And as a quarterback, you can't be like that. You know, you can't... you can't be... Like I said, I don't want to say one-dimensional because it sounds like a part of their game, but it's really just about conditions. You know, he's stuck in this place where... I mean, he's won on the road. I'm not saying he's, like, winless, but you look at his stats on the road versus his stats at home, there's a big drop. You know, and you don't want your quarterback to do that stuff. All right. On the Chiefs side of things, Mahomes praised them for pushing through poor conditions and accepting the challenge of it. Yeah, they did a great job, I think. I mean, I expected them to win because, you know, the Dolphins have only beaten one playoff team, and that's the Cowboys. But the Chiefs also, they're a lot more experienced. They've been here every year since 2018, so it's hard to bet against them right now. I'm hoping they don't make the Super Bowl again, just because I'd like to see the Ravens-Niners. I would. Like, I would love to see that rematch. Because the last one ended on a very controversial call. It was clearly pass interference, but who knows if he would have caught it. That's the fascinating thing. So, I'd love to see a Ravens-Niners Super Bowl or anything that doesn't involve the Chiefs, because I'm kind of getting a little tired of them. But, yeah, I gotta admit, they did a great job last night. And honestly, I can see them going back to the AFC title game, unfortunately, because, like I said, the Bills and Steelers are playing right now. It's currently scoreless. But I think the Bills are going to win, which would put them against the Chiefs. My money's on the Chiefs for that game. Then you got Ravens-Texans. I love the Texans. C.J. Stroud's a great story. But I got the Ravens in that game. So, as long as the Ravens... Sorry, who's left in the AFC? The Ravens, Bills, Steelers, Texans, and Texans. The Chiefs I'm taking out. I don't want the Chiefs winning. So as long as the Texans, Bills, Steelers, Ravens are the AFC champions, I'm okay. All right. Now let's talk about tonight. The other game going on tonight, the Eagles, Bucks. I think the Eagles can sneak past them. But I can honestly see them losing to the Lions. And then the Lions face the Niners or, fingers crossed, the Packers in the NFC Championship game. Because the Eagles, they've really fallen off the last few games. I don't know what's going on. There's a chance. There's a chance if they win this game, they go into the divisional round with momentum, and it takes them to the NFC title game. But I can't guarantee that because they played so poorly the last few weeks. It's hard to bet on them. All right, so Max Crosby is considering requesting a trade if the Raiders don't hire Antonio Pierce to fill in their coaching vacancy, saying nothing's off the table. I do think this is huge coming from Max Crosby because, if it was some no-name on the Raiders, I would say just ignore it. But this is Max Crosby. He's a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. He's honestly their best player, to be honest with you. But I understand why the coaches that were fired. I understand it, except for Vrabel. I don't know why the Titans fired him. But here's the thing: I think when you fire a coach, you have to have a plan. You have to have someone out there that you really like. And I'm not. Listen. I don't dig that deep to look for coaches, but I just hope the Panthers, the Pats, Commanders, I hope they all have someone and the Titans especially, I hope they all have someone they really like because they fired their coaches, but I'm not sure if they really have a plan. Actually, forget the Patriots. They hired their linebackers coach, but Panthers, Commanders, and Titans. They better have a backup plan because I don't know who they're going to go with. One of those teams is probably going to get Ben Johnson because he's just been spectacular this year. But, yeah, we'll see. One team that doesn't have to worry about their coach is the Texans. D'Amico Ryan, if it were up to me, he'd win Coach of the Year. But yeah, him and C.J. Stroud have gotten... They've done very well this year. Bringing the Texans to the playoffs, I think, should give you the Coach of the Year, just that alone. I thought the same thing last year with Doug Peterson. The Jags were damn near bottom of the league, and then they were in the playoffs. It's the same thing with the Texans this year. They were damn near bottom of the league. Now they're in the playoffs. How does that not give you Coach of the Year? You know, like, I'm not giving the Coach of the Year. I like Kevin Stefanski. He's a good coach, but I ain't giving him Coach of the Year. You know, he didn't bring a team that was bottom of the league to the playoffs, and that doesn't happen a lot. It has the last 2 years, but it's not a lot. But anyway, I mean, the Texans and Packers, as great as it was that they blew their teams out, it's gonna get tough for them. You know, Love has to go against the Niners, who are off of 2 weeks of rest, which I don't like. You know, I'm kind of scared of the Niners with 2 weeks rest. You know, and the Texans are either getting the Bills or the Chiefs. That's brutal. But hey, I'm rooting for the Texans and Packers because I do like an underdog story. Even if it makes me look dumb for doubting them, you know? Like, I don't think the Texans are going to win, but I'm not going to not root for them. Like I said, I don't want anyone but the Chiefs is good with me. Just don't let the Chiefs win again. That's all I ask. All right, so let's shift. Because there was just a report. I'll get to that after this segment. And that will be my last segment of the day. So, all right, second to last segment of the day. Stafford is proud. I said he's proud of the Rams in spite of their playoff loss. And honestly, I would be too. Because I genuinely thought the Rams were about to miss the playoffs again this year. But, especially with Cooper Kupp out the first few games. But Puka Nacua really filled the role. I know some people don't like that Cooper Kupp's being pushed to being a number 2, but you know, I mean, listen, that's Cooper Kupp. I think he's, you know, this isn't diminishing him at all. He's still a great receiver. You know, he's just not the only one there anymore. You know, for the past few years, it's pretty much been him and some other guy that Stafford likes to throw to. No, but now he has Puka Nacua, and they're going to be dangerous. Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Kupp can be really dangerous as long as Stafford doesn't bail on us next year. Which he shouldn't. I mean, he's 35, so I don't see why he would retire, because I think he still has more left in the tank. But we'll see. I mean, Cooper Kupp, and it's not like Cooper Kupp had a bad year. He missed 5 games and still had 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. You know, that's still a decent year. So, all right. Last segment of the day. So, A.J. Brown is not going to play tonight against the Bucs, which is not great news. And I'm starting to have doubts about the Eagles winning this one, but I'm going to stick with it. I am. Because I think we're going to see a lot of running with DeAndre Swift. And frankly, I don't trust... I really don't think the Bucs necessarily belong in the playoffs. They really made it because they're in such a bad division that they won it. But, I would argue that the Seahawks and the Saints are better teams. To be honest with you. Maybe not the Saints, but the Seahawks. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the Eagles in that game. This might come back to bite me, but I really don't care. Oh, by the way, so far, I think I'm 2 for 4. Wait. I'm actually 3 for 4 on my predictions. Hopefully 4 for 5, because I think the Bills are going to win this one. They're up 7-0 right now on the Steelers. But yeah, I was right about the Chiefs, Lions, and Texans. Ironically, I was wrong about the Packers, who are my favorite team, but I did not think they were going to do that. Do that well, but they did, which I'm thankful for. And who knows? Maybe they'll make the NFC Championship. Maybe they'll upset the Niners. Would be awesome. But, yeah, we'll see what happens. So, alright. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. I will get a podcast in as soon as possible. Probably mid-February, if I had to guess, will be the next one. I do thank you guys for sticking with me with my inconsistent upload schedule. But yeah, I mean, yeah, probably mid-February. I'll probably get like 1 or 2 in mid-February. Then probably be off in March again. April, I'll have spring break, so maybe I'll get in a few of that then. Problem is, even spring break, I have a tough time uploading. But yeah, I think we're looking at Well, I'm looking at last year's schedule. Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm trying to get in more because I missed November, which I got in a few uploads last year in November, and it just got away from me this year. But yeah, February I could probably get in 1 or 2. During spring break in April, I might get in about 3 or 4, hopefully. And then I'm probably off until the summer. And then, obviously in the summer, I'm on pretty much every day pretty consistently. But yeah, so once again, thank you guys for staying with me throughout my inconsistency. But yeah, Dylan Miller, Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller, Daily Dose of Dylan. Have a good day. I'll probably see you in February.